A certain level of comfort is required for learning, and a certain level of discomfort is normal in learning. We want to make sure that students have all the tools that they need to answer questions, and then have them do the cognitive work.
I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes to start your process of sorting and looking for similarities and beginning to connect them. So for today's lesson, we were focusing on the Abrahamic religions. Today we did hexagonal thinking. It makes them use their reasoning. It makes them use their evaluation skills. My job as the teacher is to facilitate the questions that will lead them down a deeper path. And so depending on what the students are saying or depending on where they're at, you gauge whether it's a what versus a why type question. So then what role is an imam, a pastor, and a rabbi within their faiths?
They're all like giving religious advice.
Okay. You do have to give them that foundation. How come you connected God with Allah?
Because they're both the main God for the religion.
Okay. You move from the what, who, where to the why, hows. Why do you think all three?
Could it be connected with one of these? Even?
That depends on how you put it together, but your thinking is the right way because you're starting to connect it to other things.
There are a couple characteristics of questions that help students effectively process. One is, how do we connect the thinking from one idea to another? Does the question require students to elaborate, to make connections, to more fully develop their ideas? I might have an idea for a very good, effortful question, but I know that I might need to lay the groundwork for that with some questions that might on the surface not be as effortful, but will give them the reinforcement of that content understanding to be able to answer the effortful question.
Were Christians persecuted by Rome? That's the question.
Yeah.
Okay, how?
They didn't like what they believed, and so they...
When you're approaching a student or you're asking them questions that are a little deeper and they're a little harder to answer, you have to give them space and time. So how did you determine how to connect them? Then all of a sudden they know that the silence isn't uncomfortable. The silence is there for them to be able to think about it in a messy way in their brain. Can you tell me why he did it?
A good question keeps the students precisely at the point of thinking for a longer duration to ensure that that new content is effectively processed and moved to long-term memory.
Very good job. Okay, so I want you to take a minute and I want you to put your hexagons back together in your bag.